This is American Ground Radio. I'm Stephen Paul with Louis R. Avallone.
You know, the Capitol police officer who murdered Ashley Babbitt
Murdered?
on January the... Well, no, the chief medical examiner... No, the chief medical examiner in Washington, D.C. listed her death, her manner of death, as a homicide.
Okay, so it's a homicide, but you that doesn't have to be necessarily murder. That could have been manslaughter, could have simply been homicide. I mean, saying that every police officer who shoots and kills someone is murder, I think that's too far.
All right, well, they still haven't officially identified that Capitol police officer who fatally shot Ashley Babbitt on January the 6th. And the Biden Justice Department has announced that it has closed the investigation into the homicide death of Ashley Babbitt. Doesn't that concern you?
It does concern me in that...
I mean, she was shot and killed without any apparent warning by a plainclothes Capitol police officer as she climbed through a broken window.
There was no warning? There
was no apparent warning.
You've got officers pointing guns at you. I would say that's kind of warning.
Well, what about the radicals that stormed the state capitals in Iowa and Wisconsin and Georgia? None of them were shot.
I agree.
You've got left-wing protesters that tried to break down the door to the Supreme Court of the United States while Brett Kavanaugh was being sworn in. Nobody got shot.
Well, and
Antifa, BLM, these thugs riot, they burn, they murder, they loot, they assault. Look at what happened in Portland, in Seattle, in Minneapolis, in Brooklyn Center. The media didn't call them terrorists. They didn't call for their incarceration or for their deaths.
Well, and certainly had Ashley Babbitt been black, there would have been rioting in the streets, and the media would have been calling for the punishment of the officer. They would have been demanding the name of the officer. But because she was a white woman, her life does not matter to those in BLM.
I don't think it goes too far for me to make the point that there is a two-tiered system of justice in America. One is for Democrats, and one is for everybody else.
I think Hillary Clinton would have to agree with you. She wouldn't say it in public, but she quite clearly knows that that's true.
And you know who else might clearly agree with us?
Who's
Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Uh-oh.
He picked up on what happened on January the 6th. He turned the tables in an interview with NBC News where he was being asked by this reporter who insinuated that Russia is guilty of human rights abuses.
Well, they kind of are.
Okay. Now, when the reporter asked, did you order the assassination of Alexei Navalny?
Right.
Okay. First...
Who almost died. He's now in jail,
okay,
and he's not doing well.
So Putin said, first of all, we don't have this kind of habit of assassinating anybody else. But then he went on...
Yeah, they kind of do.
Okay, but... He said he didn't have a habit.
Poroshenko.
Not saying it doesn't happen.
Poroshenko's another good example. Somebody they murdered.
I'm not here to say
polonium.
That Putin has, clean hands. I mean, he's been part of the KGB.
His hands glow from polonium radiation.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's not funny. It's not funny because remember that reporter,
right,
who was poisoned.
Absolutely,
that's what you're referring to.
That's one of the things I'm referring to. There've been several people that Russia has assassinated with polonium. A couple of them living in England at the time.
All right. So the reporter asked, did you order the assassination of Alexei, Navalny? And he made the point. Putin said, "Look, we don't assassinate people. We don't have a habit of assassinating people." And then he said this.
Второе. Значит, я хочу вас спросить. А вы приказали убить женщину, которая вошла в Конгресс и которую застрелил полицейский? А вы знаете, что у вас 450 человек арестованы после захода в Конгресс?
Look,
и они пришли не для того, чтобы украсть там компьютер.
Okay, that's enough.
See, I've learned two words in Russian. Congress, that's Congress, and computer, that's computer.
Okay.
So I can now speak Russian.
So here's the question, and here is the hypocrisy that he picked up of the United States of America. And he asked the reporter, did you, I guess he's referring to Americans in general, did you order the assassination of the woman who walked into Congress and who was shot and killed by a policeman? He went on to say, do you know that 450 individuals were arrested after entering Congress? Putin continued, and they didn't go to steal a laptop. They came with political demands. 400 people have been detained. They're facing jail time from 15 to 25 years, and they came to Congress with political demands. Isn't that persecution for political opinions? I think he's got a point.
He does have a point. They should be prosecuted for trespassing. And you'll notice no one actually has been charged with insurrection. The left keeps calling what happened on January 6th an insurrection. You'll notice there's not a single person that's been charged with insurrection. Do you want to know why? Because it wasn't an insurrection. It was a riot. People were where they did not belong. They were doing things they shouldn't have done, but it wasn't an insurrection.
So was the killing of Ashley Babbitt persecution for her political opinion?
I don't think so. I think it was.
You think that's too far of a bridge to cross?
Because I'm not sure the officer himself standing there with the gun went, oh, look at this right-wing nut job. I'm going to kill her. I think if anything, the officer, and I'm not saying the officer was justified in the shooting. I'm not saying I agree with the report. But I think the officer's looking at that. At worst case, I think the officer shot her out of fear that was unjustified.
All right. Now, just to be clear, the official report, two United States Senate committees released a bipartisan report. This was weeks ago, saying that basically the Capitol riot was due to a number of security, planning, and response failures by federal law enforcement and government agencies.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no official report that states that the Democrat Party was responsible for the death of Ashley Babbitt.
No, but the Democrat Party is certainly politicizing what happened on January 6th for their own advantage in the aftermath.
But the left does silence conservatives. They do silence free speech.
All the time.
William F. Buckley, he wrote, liberals claim to want to give a hearing to other views, but then they're shocked and offended to discover that there are other views. Look at what has happened on social media.
Right.
Cancel culture. Our mainstream media not giving a voice to an alternate opinion.
Not even that, not giving a voice, actively suppressing the voice, saying that anybody who said that Hunter Biden's laptop was real was doing Russian misinformation. That's what the mainstream media said. And mainstream, that's not the right term. That's what the big corporate media said. And it was a lie. And that wasn't the only lie they told during the 2020 election. And when people went back and asked people who voted for Joe Biden, did you know about Hunter Biden's laptop? They said no. Well, if you had known about that he had potential child pornography on there, would you have voted for Joe Biden? They went, good Lord, no.
But on a larger scale, what a chilling effect that January 6th is going to have on ordinary Americans.
And free speech.
Who want to go to their United States Capitol.
The whole Capitol's been wrapped in barbed wire for months this year.
But none of us should be bullied into silence. And I just think it's amazing and embarrassing all at the same time that Vladimir Putin picked up on this point. And very frankly, I think he has one.
And Putin knows more about what's going on in America than Biden knows about what's going on in Russia. Let's get to the top 3 things you need to know before tomorrow. Well, President Biden did meet today with Russian President Vladimir Putin. They talked about Russian cyber attacks against the U.S. government and private businesses, Russian aggression in Europe and the Arctic, climate change, and fighting in Syria and the Middle East. While there were a wide range of topics discussed, no clear resolution to any of the problems is expected to be coming out of today's meeting.
Well, Vladimir Putin is a fan of Donald Trump, which will provide just more fodder for those that feel there is some Russia collusion.
I think he respects Donald Trump. Vladimir Putin does not respect weakness.
No, I get that. I don't know that they're, best buds.
Right.
But he certainly isn't impressed with Biden from his comments in several media interviews.
I agree with that. Second thing you need to know before tomorrow, a judge in Louisiana ruled late yesterday that President Biden does not have the constitutional authority to block new oil and gas leases with an executive order. Louisiana, Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Georgia, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, Utah, and West Virginia all sued the Biden administration after he signed an executive order shortly after taking office. The Interior Department said it will comply with the judge's ruling, but will continue doing a review of their current oil and gas leasing permit processes.
You know, I say it again. I never thought there would be a time where the states of this great nation would need to protect themselves against the federal government. But our founders did.
They absolutely
and they must
did.
be looking down right now and just saying, I told you so.
A third thing you need to know before tomorrow, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a new religious freedom bill into law today. The law prevents any government agency or public official in the state of Texas from being able to close a place of worship. In announcing the signing of the bill, Abbott tweeted, quote, "The First Amendment right of freedom of religion shall never be infringed." However, it was Abbott himself who closed churches last year when he signed an executive order deeming churches not to be essential during the height of the pandemic.
Boy, this state of Texas, they keep hitting one home run after another because people vote with their feet, and the number one reason that they do is for freedom, baby.
But because Abbott had such hard lockdowns, that's why so many people are running against him for governor for his next reelection.